Welcome back to Boston has entered the chat. Now it's my time. I love sanctioned violence. UFC, boxing, maybe out in the parking lot. You name it, I'm in. We get the fight of the century tomorrow night. Canelo Crawford live from Vegas on Netflix. And we welcome in, you saw him throw those hands. We welcome in Waltham native, founder of Fight Camp, Tommy Duquette joins us here. Good morning. Thanks for getting up early with us, my friend. And I cannot wait to talk some boxing with you.
Oh, thank you so much, man. I really appreciate that. And I got to give a nod to my co-founders. I'm a co-founder of Fight Camp with a few excellent co-founders as well.
Okay, well, let's start there. Tell us about it. I mean, I mentioned you're a Waltham native. You came up around here. Don't be humble, because you definitely have earned your way in the fight game. So tell us about that, and then how you started Fight Camp as well.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, so I was boxing most of my life. And boxing in my family goes way, way back to the 1920s, as far as I know. My great-grandfather was an excellent fighter himself. He almost made the Olympics back in the day. He just missed making the Olympic team by the smallest margin. I think it was in the 1920s, the late 20s. So it's a pedigree that goes way back in my family. I started when my grandfather fought as well. I started when I was about 14 years old, which a lot of people in boxing are like, that's late. You know, Starting at 14 is late, which is insane. I had over 130 fights, national medals, multiple New England championships, and I qualified as the number 2 seed in the 2012 U.S. Olympic trials.
Wow.
And I lost tiebreaker to the Olympian. So.
Okay. All right. And then how did Fight Camp come about? You say you were a co-founder there, so was it a group of you?
Yeah, it was a group of us. So I actually studied entrepreneurship at Babson College, right? Okay. And wanted to start a company. Had tried to start a different company, and it's very difficult. You know, most startups fail. And around the time that my first startup was having difficulty, I met my co-founders at Fight Camp. It was around 2015, and we got accepted to a accelerator program called Y Combinator. We had a hardware that tracked all your punches, and our original model was like, when we sell this data to live sporting events like the Canelo Crawford fight, so that when you're watching the fight, you know, you have the punch speed and all the metrics there in real time. We ended up pivoting that model towards fitness and towards Fight Camp in 2017, and it just took off like a rocket ship. So Fight Camp was a streaming platform where if you had, you know, your garage gym, you had a bag, you had things like that, you could take boxing classes directly from Fight Camp, and all your punches would be tracked, and there'd be a trainer leading you through it and everything else.
Oh, wow. That's fascinating. So actually, in a lot of ways, you are the perfect guy for this interview, not only because you're local, but because you've crossed those paths, boxing and business. And that's what this fight is all about, because this fight is big business. Let's start with the fight side first, and we'll get into the business later. What was your initial reaction when you heard Crawford was stepping up 2 weight classes for this challenge against one of the greats of all time? Not that Crawford isn't great, but Canelo is one of the all-time greats. And for Crawford to come up 2 weight classes to even test this dude, what was your initial reaction?
You know, if it was anybody except for Crawford, I'd be worried for them, right? Because in boxing, there's weight classes for a reason, right? Weight classes really matter. 2 weight classes is a lot to come up. So I think that's going to be the tallest order for Crawford. It's just he's never fought at this weight before, and Canelo has fought at light heavyweight, right? Which is just insane. At one point in time, Canelo thought that he was going to win the title at light heavyweight and maybe fight at heavyweight, which is just crazy, right? It speaks a lot about him and, you know, how much he's willing to endeavor and put himself on the line. But same thing with Crawford, man. He's stepping up in a similar way that Canelo did, you know, a little while back in his career, and daring to be great and fighting a bigger guy. And, you know, personally, I really hope Crawford wins. I'd love to see the American win, but I think it's going to be really tough because of the weight.
Yeah, it's funny. You sound like me breaking down this fight, because the way I see it, when I look at it from my heart and even my gut, I do feel like Bud Crawford is closer to his prime than Canelo. But it's weird because technically he is older than Canelo. But I just think he has more tread on his tires. Maybe it's because we've been watching Canelo for forever and he's been in more big fights. He feels like the older fighter when you look at kind of mileage-wise. But then I say, okay, gut, heart says Bud Crawford's going to get this done because he's closer to his prime. It's his time, so to speak. But then my brain my logic, Tommy, tells me that this is Canelo Alvarez we're talking about. He's been there, done that in terms of big fights. We know that even though if he's on the back of his prime, he's still in it. It's not like he's washed here. So my logic, my brain tells me he's going to win the fight. I don't know which way to go. How do you sort of see this playing out? Because naturally, Canelo's a bigger guy. I mean, you just laid that out. Generally, size wins in these fights. But Crawford's so skilled. Where are you in this in terms of prediction and how it plays out?
Man, they're both so skilled, right? And Canelo has taken the bigger fights and always risen to the occasion. You know, he has all those games. You talk about age, and what's interesting is that age matters a lot in boxing for sure. But what I think matters a lot more, it's like a different measure of age, is mileage. So maybe that can be a huge advantage for Canelo, that he's had all those big fights and done really well. It can also be a disadvantage if it's starting to catch up with him and he's starting to slow down. You know, he had some rough fights. It's like those Golovkin fights, those take a lot out of your fighter, you know? Yeah,
I thought Canelo lost the first Triple G fight, and then I'll give him props for the rematch. But you're right. I mean, those fights, even Kovalev, like he had a lot of fights against a lot of big name guys that feels like we know the loss to Floyd, even though he was young. That's still another one. Let's talk legacy with these two guys before I get a prediction from you. You know, legacy-wise, okay, it's Bud Crawford's time right now, I think. So we understand if he wins, it stamps that. Like, hey, you're one of the GOATs, not the GOAT, but you're one of the greats. That sort of puts you in that air, in that rarefied air. I look at Canelo, personally, I think this is more important to his legacy because right now, most of us agree Canelo's one of already the all-time great fighters. But if he wins this, Tommy, I mean, look, for my money, he becomes the greatest Mexican fighter ever, and that is huge. I think most people would say Julio Cesar Chavez right now, although I would take Canelo. But I think if he wins this fight, that puts that to bed. And then, hey, by the way, if he wins this, are you talking about Canelo with Sugar Ray and Hagler and all those greats? I think you are if he wins this fight. Whose legacy stands to gain the most from winning this fight?
Man, both guys already have such amazing legacies, right? Yeah. World champions, fathers, you know, family men, great role models, all these things. And, you know, I just hope both guys get out of it, you know, in one piece and with all their faculties and, you know, looking good. I hope it's a great fight. You know, definitely for Canelo, with that Mexican heritage, it's tough. There's a lot on the line, right? You have not just Julio Cesar Chavez, Salvador Sanchez. It's just so many great Mexican fighters throughout history. My concern for Canelo is that no matter, you know, how big he goes, how big he wins, it'll never be enough, and he'll just keep trying to push for the next thing. And then Bud Crawford, same thing, man. He gets a win over Canelo. It's definitely putting him up there. I think, you know, it's similar, though. People will continue to expect more out of him. They'll be like, all right, now you got to be Jaron Ennis. Like, it's just, there's always somebody new. Yeah. And the boxing public is never satisfied. So I think what's important, like a lot of guys, like Andre Ward is a great example of this. As long as you're satisfied with your legacy and you go with all your faculties and you're a good role model, I think that's something to be proud of.
Because, I think that's well said.
Yeah, I don't think the boxing fans will ever be satisfied. They'll always want more.
Yeah, but you're the one who has to live with the results after your career is over. I think that's very well said by you. Okay, I've been teasing a prediction. We'll save it for the end. I want to ask you about the business side because I said you have a unique perspective here. This fight is on Netflix. Dana White is involved. And one thing, look, I'm a UFC fan too. One thing I love about the UFC, and this is what Dana White implemented there, everyone fights everyone. The best fight the best. There's been nonsense, and I'm not blaming Floyd. I like what he did with his career. But since Floyd Mayweather, these guys are protecting their undefeated records, and they don't want to fight this guy and that guy. No. Back in the day, back in our day, the best fought the best in boxing. We're getting that here tomorrow night with these two guys. The business side of things. Do you like that it's not on pay-per-view? Do you like sort of Dana White, who's another local guy, by the way? Do you like the way he's come into boxing and implemented some of the things that were successful in UFC?
For sure, yeah. I don't think you'll find a person in the world that's not happy that it's not on pay-per-view, right? Pay-per-view is miserable for the fans. And you make a good point with the records. I think, you know, that has become so toxic in boxing. This idea of like, I have to have an undefeated record or, a really good record. It really causes guys to like go on the defensive and always defend their records and never fight the big fights. Amateur boxing is a great contrast. In amateur boxing, nobody asks you what your record is. You fight every weekend sometimes. You go to tournaments and you'll fight 6 days in a row. All that anybody cares about is like, what are the big tournaments you've won? Have you won, your Golden Gloves or your region or a national championship? That's all that matters. And, that's a lot more healthy for the sport of boxing. It's been very healthy for the UFC. And, I'd love to see it happen in boxing. I'd love to see Dana come and shake things up here and do something like that. And I think the other big point here with this being on Netflix is maybe, if this works, I see, like, this is a big fight for boxing. It's very entertaining, but more than anything, it's like a big business model experiment. Now, if this works, you can get back to the days when everybody knew who these fighters were, when they were fighting on primetime TV for free, those Sugar Ray Leonard days.
That's right.
And that could be a great thing for boxing. So I wish these guys all the best of the luck with this model. Dana White, the Zuffa boxing, I think, is what they're fighting under. Mm-hmm. They have the support from Saudi Arabia, of course, as well. So they have some great financial backing, and I really hope to see this work.
Hey, by the way, we may see this fight again, right? This could, if it's a great fight, we're going to get a repeat. We could get a trilogy. We'll see what happens there. All right, let's do it. Look, you're going to roll your eyes at me because I only see two paths here for this fight. I see Crawford by decision or Canelo by knockout. Here's where I'm at with this. I love Crawford's confidence. I love it. And by the way, he looks great. Moving up 2 weight classes. I mean, you can speak to this more as a fighter, from a fighter perspective, but most of these guys walk around heavy as hell, and then they cut down to their fight weight. I think Crawford is probably more natural where he is now, 2 weight classes up. Canelo is, though, the bigger man. So if Crawford wants to win this, he has to box. Not saying he has to run, Tommy, but I think he's got to be smart. You can't stand in there and engage with so much. There'll be pockets where you have to do that, but you better not stand in there and engage too much. Get on your bike, move around, okay, box, stay on the outside. I think you can win the fight. Canelo, conversely, we know with that Mexican style, too, they're going to stand in the middle of the ring at some point and bang. I think if Crawford wants to stay there, he's going to get in trouble. Canelo puts him to sleep. How do you see this? Take our audience into a fighter's perspective. How do you see this sort of playing out? What are some things in this fight you'll be looking for early to dictate how it's going to go?
For sure. All right. So both of these guys are actually very cerebral fighters. So expect the fight to start out, I think, personally, very slow. I'd be surprised if it started out fast, right? And what you're going to see is both guys really trying to measure each other and download each other. And, I think that'll last through the first quarter of the fight at least. And then I think you're going to see Canelo definitely trying to come forward. And I think if Crawford is fighting his good fight, he's switching stances and controlling the middle of the ring with movement, right? And really frustrating Canelo in a similar way to Floyd. Now, they have very different styles. Crawford is more physical. And I think a lot of people are nervous for Crawford to be on the inside. I think in pockets, Crawford could do really well on the inside, too. He's very, very, very strong fighter.
All right, let's go prediction.
It's tough.
I'll go, you know what? Even hearing you say that, I have a little more confidence in this now. I'm going to go Crawford by decision here. And we're going to get a repeat fight, if not a trilogy, because it'll be great. I'll go Crawford by decision on points. Where are you going?
All right, I'll help you keep it interesting then. And, we'll tell the audience, we have a little wager on the side maybe, right?
Okay, okay.
I think I'm going to go Canelo by decision. I don't think anybody's getting knocked out by close decision. But I would love to see Crawford win. I want to see our American win this fight. He definitely can. I think it's going to be a close fight no matter what. I'll give Canelo the edge just on experience and size. That's where I'm going with my choice here. It's just based on those two things.
Hey, we both win, because if either one of us is right and this goes the distance and it's a great fight like we both think, we're going to get another fight between these. We're getting a rematch.
Oh, for sure. Something great is going to come out of this no matter what, whether it be a rematch, whether it be Crawford ascending to a higher stage, Canelo making bigger fights, and Netflix starting to hold more and more boxing matches, which would be awesome.
Tommy, we appreciate you joining us, man. Thank you so much. And look, you know, you've inspired me. I'm going to go do some push-ups. I'm going to go do some crunches. I'm going to get my road work in. I'm going to hit the pads, squabble up here on Boston Has Entered the Chat. Thanks, Tommy. We'll do it again for the next big fight.